twice an Olympic venue, Lake Placid, New York. And we are live this weekend for the opening weekend of the FIBT World Cup for bobsleigh and skeleton on Mount Van Hovenberg, just outside of town. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our coverage, whether you're watching us in Europe, in the USA with Universal Sports, or wherever you are across the globe. I'm Martin Haven, alongside me David Kurtz, getting ready, Dave, for an unusual event. Run 3 in a men's skeleton competition that is not a World Championships. Regular World Cup races have 2 heats and World Championships 4, but this is different. We have a top 10 runoff going for gold. Well, let's take a look at the action from yesterday, and it started with drama.
Well, really quite a disappointment for the German program. Their top German skeleton male slider, Frank Rommel, was disqualified for being over the maximum limit of 115 kilos. But here you'll see one of the pair of Latvian superheroes, Thomas Dukors, coached by his father, Danis Dukors. They train on the Sigulda track in Latvia. And Thomas Dukors is rising to the challenge of his younger brother, Martin Dukors, who just blew away the field all of last year and was world champion. And never can you ever forget Alexander Trechikov, the Russian rocket. He's got a blistering start, sometimes inconsistent results, but he seems to be putting together his program from top to bottom using Dukors sleds this year and training with the Dukors brothers, and somewhat blew away John Daly, who was sitting on top of the leaderboard until the Russian rocket just tore him apart. And John Daly is now in 4th place, but all looking ahead towards Martin Dukors, who still leads the field, although surprisingly by a very short margin over Alexander Trechikov. Martin Dukors last year, world champion here on the Lake Placid track, blew everyone away by a half second every single heat, and he's now being challenged for this extraordinary 3rd heat in this new format. And we'll see how it comes to play today, immediately following the track and the women's bobsled race.
Well, here are the top 10 athletes. Overnight, these were the gaps. 1/100th of a second, first to second. 600ths covering the top 3. John Daly with a big gulf to jump if he's to fight his way into a podium position for the USA. Well, look at it. They're hovering just around -4, -5 degrees. Ice temperature just around -4. Control steel, which hangs up at the top, against which all other runners are measured, is at -1 degree. And you can only be plus or minus 2 degrees from that. They're very careful about the runners. Like with an auto racing driver, your tyre, the contact to the track is vital. The runners here are equally vital and very tightly controlled. Now we go last to fast, 10 down to 1. Maurizio Oioli, who was 10th place after 2 heats, will go first. Matt Antoine of the USA, recovering from knee surgery just 8 weeks ago. He's second off. Ben Sanford, the Kiwi, who took a silver medal in Switzerland last season, behind Martin Dukors. He will be 3rd off the hill, and Martins will go last. Now, 2 interesting things about Dukors. Last year, his smallest winning margin was over half a second. His biggest was 1.6 seconds in a 2-heat race. He leads by 100th. Something else to conjure with. Dukors has won 11 of the last 12 World Cup races. Dukors has never won a World Cup race on this track, although he did win the World Championship. So is there a little something going on there? Are we going to see this string broken again? The last man to beat him was Frank Rommel, who got disqualified yesterday, but Trechikov and Thomas Dukors could easily do it here.
Well, I think we're going to see the true mettle of Martin Dukors. He, as you mentioned, he has blown away the field on almost every single heat, and he is now being challenged. And unfortunately, Frank Rommel was disqualified, but you have Alexander Trechikov breathing hot and heavy over his shoulder.
Jos Matley at the top of the track, sending the Italians sled back. Little track hole. Greg West, the forerunner, has just come down safely, but maybe that there's a problem with the timing clocks. Let's take a look then at this Lake Placid track. 1,455 metres. And Lake Placid historically has got a reputation for being a difficult track.
Very difficult, very technical, and it starts really up here at the top. Not so much at the curves 1, 2, and 3, cliffside as they refer to it, but the athlete after the explosive start has to be quiet on the sled, shoulders molded over the front of the sled, because by the time you get to curve 3 right here, there's a tricky exit, and you'll see most of the athletes just bang off the wall. and that can unsettle you because you have to remain quiet on the sled. You can get lost here in the Devil's Highway, lost time, because when you hit this high G-force compression pressure of Big Shady, and you have to use the slingshot effect if you really want to be effective and have a good downtime, because you go through the lower labyrinth and exit this very tricky Benham's Bend curve into the chicane, an uphill, slightly crooked straightaway, and then you go into the heart-shaped curves at the bottom, 18 and 19. Difficult transition. You have to be very careful to be quiet on your sled because you're going uphill and you can lose precious time.
Well, Matt Antoine has the track record set in 2011's race. But I spoke to Matt yesterday. He's being cautious with his knee. He had knee surgery just 8 weeks ago. He's been running on it only for the last 2 weeks. In the black cap there's Françoise Burdette, the former Swiss slider and coach. Looks a little like her. Watching there, overlooking the track coming down to the chicane. And the chicane, as you can see here, this is not looking up the track, down the track, that's looking up the track. In fact, the chicane, you start to climb there, drop back down again, and then you go into the heart at the bottom of the track, and the last element of that is flat into an uphill section.
Sure, and you didn't see that so much in the point of view camera that we just showed you, but however, the on camera that you'll see from the chicane shows the sleds coming right at you, and you'll see the dynamic of that very difficult straightaway.
Well, look at this beautiful weather. The storm that was in the northeast just a couple of days ago just stopped short. It got almost to Saranac Lake, didn't quite get over into the foothills of the Adirondacks here in Lake Placid. So we had a little overcast day yesterday, but no snowfall, no precipitation. Beautiful weather coming in. And today is an absolutely wonderful day for watching sliding. And one of the great things when you come to a track, wherever it is your proximity to the action. If you're an auto racing fan, you're used to being a long way back, of course, for safety. But the sleds are contained in a track. You can lean literally on the walls of the track and watch these things whistle by you at 75, 80 miles an hour.
And actually the dynamic of the sled going by, the sound is the thing that most startles people. You can hear the sled thundering down the track before it even gets to you for the brief milliseconds that it breezes past you in an eyelash.
Well, we've got a little bit of a track hold. I believe we're having another forerunner come down just to check something. But in the meanwhile, let's take a look back at the World Championships. February seems to me like a lifetime ago, fitted in a whole auto racing season since then. But it was on this track that the World Championships 2012 were played out for the second time in under 5 seasons. Well, here's a report on the 2012 Worlds.
The Bauhaus World Skeleton Championships, the men's from Lake Placid, New York, the fourth and final heat in unbelievable weather conditions. Dukars was the leader at the end of the third run as expected, but Ben Sanford made a big move in the third run, put himself into medal position. New Zealand, the last time they won a medal, 20 years ago. His uncle Bruce won the World Championships. On this day, Ben Sanford, best shooting off from Russia. He guarantees himself a bronze medal for the Southern Hemisphere and New Zealand. Next up, Frank Rommel from Germany. He's been on cruise control. The only time that Dukars has been beat all year was been by Frank Rommel. And on this day, the Germans celebrate. Rommel wins at least a silver medal. Next up, the guy we've called Superman. 14 of the last 15 races he's won. And on this day, watch the time. He's over 2 seconds of a lead. Ridiculous what this man achieves on these icy tracks. Big Latvian crowd on hand. What a finish. He wins by over 2 seconds in a sport measured by hundreds of seconds. Martin Dukars celebrates a world championship for the second consecutive year.
Top of the track, getting ready to start this top 10 runoff with Maurizio Aioli here in Lake Placid. The Italian, 5:10 and 5:05 getaways, 5:09 start, and an impressive first day of sliding from him.
Absolutely. The biggest surprise, I think, for the top 10 so far going into the third heat is Maurizio Aioli. And his coach, Danny Lucati, the former Italian women's skeleton slider, is now the head coach for the skeleton program in Italy. And she is very excited about her young prospect, Maurizio Aioli, who has been on the circuit for a while, but now just putting it all together.
Nice run out of Shady. This is a nice, smooth-looking run, David. Shades are down in a couple of places to stop the track melting in the sunshine. But No major dramas. Let's see the speed. 121.8. That's very good.
I think with the track conditions, even though there was the women's bobsled first heat just before this race, the track conditions are ideal. The ice conditions are at the right temperature. The little bit of sun will help in spots. And here you have a 54.29. Yes, far. He's a half a second ahead of his fastest run yesterday.
Well, that's interesting because yesterday was the first day of competition and it was just the men and the women's skeleton. Today, the track has been re-prepared again. And every day you go out and polish the track, it just gets a little quicker. And look here in the chicane, great run through.
How about this shot? This is what you're going to see. And what a perfect straightaway for Maurizio Alioli. And really, and then going into the lower heart curves, hit the entrance just perfectly, and a great run for Maurizio.
Well, he moves into the lead of the event. First man to complete the 3 runs. He's got the tricolore there. And up in the start shed, and a lot of the fans are enjoying the atmosphere. You can smell the adrenaline here. All right, it smells a bit like embrocation, but the adrenaline is thick in the air. And Matt Antoine, well, he will be starting faster as the season goes on, but right now he's got to make sure he doesn't pop that knee and really cripple himself for the rest of the year. He's aiming towards the World Championships in St. Moritz at the end of the year in February as his peak. And then, of course, the tryout event at Sochi, because everybody now has one thing in their headlights, and that is the Olympic Games.
Yeah, you can see the start clock there. He's got 16 seconds to go to get off before it goes red. And even with his knee condition, Matt Antoine is really trying to come back strong, and he's the hope of the American program.
He started 5:13, 5:09 yesterday, 5:12. That really is jogging off. He is capable of getting below 5 seconds, but again, you just can't rehabilitate quickly enough.
Yeah, and he's under control. It's hard to hold back the adrenaline rush that you have at the start, but he's got to be careful to preserve himself. It's a long season yet ahead.
Now, he was only 200ths of a second in front of the Italian from the first heat. He only started 300ths quicker. Matt is in second place at the moment. Red figures behind the split time shows that he's behind. If he gets to 0 or to a negative figure, it'll go green, meaning he's in front on time, but shoots the chicane poorly and is slower going in.
Slow time, and also it was just a disastrous chicane for him. Got in way too early, clicked off the left wall, left wall, ping-ponging down that straightaway is fatal.
Well, 120 kilometers now through there. That's 75 miles an hour. He's cannoning off the ice walls. Now, it's a glancing blow, but you drive your car at 75 miles an hour, a glancing blow against a wall. You know all about it. This is a physical sport, Dave.
Well, certainly your body knows it too. And again, you have little bumpers on the side and the front and the back, but it only prevents a major catastrophe of bruising and hemorrhaging. And often the shoulders and the wrists are black and blue, and often just a mess. But Matt Antoine is just rocking all over back and forth. Once he got knocked off balance from that first hit on the wall, he could not correct himself, and it cost him precious time.
Coach Zach Lund with the sled right in front of us. There's Matt, little bit of a wry smile. That's one of those runs that you wish you'd done in training and didn't save over for the World Cup race itself.
No, it's the nightmare highlight reel that you have in your career. And Matt Antoine will look at that and know that is absolutely the wrong way to take the chicane.
33-year-old Kiwi Ben Sanford from Rotorua in New Zealand. 4 America's Cup wins this year, including last year, including on this track. He started his season in North America, finished it there, and now he starts in the World Cup. There is your leader, and Sanford 2/10 exactly in front of the Italian. Yes. The longer the track for Sanford, the better it is, because he doesn't have the greatest start, but he does drive strong.
Yeah, you'll see here he has the 522 push, and it's only the 3rd slowest at this point, but he'll have the slowest of the 10 sliders here in this 3rd and final heat. But he does make it up. He has got a great experience on this track, spent a lot of time training on this track. He's 600s up now, and he's only going to pick up speed on the way down.
Well, a World Championship medal for him last season, and he He's the second New Zealander ever to do that in skeleton. And the first was also called Sanford, his uncle Bruce Sanford. So it's definitely a family thing. 400s in front, but shot the chicane beautifully, and that's his skill. It's as a driver.
Yes, it is, and it's really picking up. Although he's just barely holding on by 300s, it shows what a run. Maurizio just took his arm off the wall.
Yeah.
Just okay, 54-44, 500s ahead of Maurizio Alioli.
Yeah, just pulled his right hand or left hand out of the way there, didn't he, to make sure there was no contact with the wall. 75 miles an hour through the chicane, 121.1 kilometers an hour.
You can see his long, lanky body with the feet extended way over the back of the sled. It's amazing, but he has good strength to handle the high pressure and the curves, feet off the ice. Here you see in the chicane, look at the speed. And here you go, just behind Maurizio Alioli, 121.0 clicks per hour, and this is a good run for Ben Sanford.
Yeah, such a nice guy to have around, well respected by the other athletes. He's an athlete's rep and is often the interface between, well, basically the skeleton world and the governing body. He has the lead of the race with 7 to go. Next up, Kyle Tress of the USA, 31-year-old from right here in Lake Placid, New York.
Grew up in New Jersey, of course, which suffered the great hit of the Hurricane Sandy. And looking forward to a lot of support from home in New Jersey, but he's a young athlete for the American program too, and with a great career ahead of him, and this is going to be a benchmark for him here in the first World Cup of the season on home track Lake Placid.
We talk about Olympic legacy, that's what you're looking at here. Watched the games in Salt Lake 2002 and was hooked. He said basically, I found skeleton and never left.
Well, it does grab you that way, and that's how a lot of the athletes got involved, watching it on the Olympics, thinking, you know, I can ride a sled in my hometown and maybe I can do it in the Olympics. And Kyle Tress is really putting down together a good run. Look at this, good form, nice chicane, not bad speed. Oh, error at the end, cost him a little bit going into the high pressure curves at the heart.
Fastest of all, 76 miles an hour, 121.9 kilometers an hour, and just a little skid there as he gets uphill into the heart. 54.15 slide, and again yesterday a 54.62 and a 54.53. That's a big step up.
It sure is, and I don't know if we're going to see a start record today with Trechikov, and even Martin Zdukors might have a shot at it. A little bit of sun, although the start is protected, but the ice might be just at the right temperature. And it's showing in the better times that the athletes are having today.
Well, we should have a smile out of Kyle for that. He's only 1900ths off the track record set by Marc-Antoine 18 months ago. Good slide, couple of little errors. He could have been another 10th quicker.
Well, just drifting over into the sidewall now already, there's ice debris, just little chips of ice that go on the side. So if you're not in the middle of the straightaway like that, which was perfect, a little bit of skid at the end, but did not cost him at all.
Yeah, well, you know, you think it's lying down. Of course it isn't. There's that explosive power at the start. Well, you know, you're only sprinting for 50 meters, but of course you're being crushed down by gravity onto your sled after that in all those turns. It's hard to breathe, and you're only on the sled for a minute. Frankly, you don't need to breathe. That's why they're always puffing and blowing at the bottom.
Yeah, really, and it's a very ungallant finish off in the time. A lot of body fluids coming out of different orifices on your face.
Moving right along.
Well, that lead us into this. Now,
oversharing.
Really?
Oversharing.
Yeah.
Alexander Krökel of Germany then, one of the new young sliders, and he is a quick bunny. 6th quickest start, 4:98 in the first heat. Let's see if he can crack the 5-second barrier again.
The Germans are really counting on Alexander, considering the disappointment with Frank Rommel. Ooh, a heavy load onto the sled.
5:05, he was giving it everything. He knows that he is the top German slider. Their third man here, Christopher Groth here, is a rookie, as Krökel himself was when he started in the World Cup last season. So he's only had 1 year of sliding in World Cup. He's been on ice about 7-8 seasons now, Krökel.
Yeah, 1100's up. It's going to depend upon how he handles the big shady curve. He's got to make sure he's got to get that slingshot effect. Here he is in the shady. We'll see the exit. Drifted over to the wall. That broke some of his momentum. He's going to have to keep it together. Ooh. Way too late going into 12. That has cost him as well. He's already 300s back. speed is down to 118.9 kilometers per hour. He is not going to finish on the podium today.
It's all about experience in this sport. If you're a Sprint Cup NASCAR racer, you get hours of training going around any circuit before you have to qualify and race. Here you get 4-6 slides a weekend, then you go away and come back a year, 18 months, maybe 2 years later to the track. It's very difficult to build up the experience that the front runners have got when you're a rookie, and Krökel showed exactly that. Just a little late onto the corner, cost him so much. But let's take a look at the start. Did he load hard?
You're going to see this. Now, look at the side force. When you put all that pressure on the sled, when you dive onto it, there's a lot of friction on the side of those start grooves at the top, and that will slow you down. You could have a good 50-meter time, but no speed. And this was a late exit into 12, crashing off. Look at this. The front of the sled elevated as well before he hit the wall, inner wall in the transition. Now, this is the difficult part for Alexander Krökel to see where he finishes in the final top 10.
Krökel second behind Kyle Tress, our leader, with 5 sliders still to go. Tress might end up in the medals if there's a couple more errors, because he had a really good run. There's Zach Lund, the coach, alongside. Top of the ice is Kristen Bromley, now starting his 17th consecutive season sliding World Cup for Great Britain. Pulled a hamstring in training in Lillehammer just 5 weeks ago, and is almost hobbling off despite those lurid lime green spikes, looking like he's powering away. He is a long way from his fast best. 5:09 yesterday, the better start. 5:14 this morning.
His first step on the start was a misstep. You might have seen the ice spray from the first step, and I think that cost him 5:14, although he's not the best starter. That is one of his worst starts here in Lake Placid.
200s up over Kyle Tress. He was a 1/10 of a second clear of the American in the first heat. Let's see if he can pull a little more advantage out. He's gone behind.
Well, if anyone can, Dr. Ice can. Kristen Bromley is one of the senior sliders on tour, great veteran, understands ice, understands the curves, the G-force, all the pressures. That error is going to cost him as well, too. You cannot afford in this final 10 any errors of any substance. Kristen Bromley's falling back from the yes.
Race leader Kyle Tress was faster through the chicane and had better speed all the way down. 54.41 slide for Kristen Bromley. He drops into second, so he will be no worse than 6th position. But Kyle Tress moving up the order. Bromley, well, he will work this season on getting his sled design right for the World Championships and getting fit himself as well. Out is Shady here, David.
Yeah, nice exit of Shady. His shoulders are down, nice profile, feet off the ice, balanced well. But he had already had some errors at the top, and this was a little click off the wall before the entrance of that curve, and that just takes away from the time down at the bottom. Every little momentum break hurts. This was going into Benham's Bend.
Yep.
And just keeping the shoulders there, but he had lost it, and then that error in the chicane killed it off.
He and his brother Richard designed the Bromley Tech sleds that he and Shelley Rudman use, and they're very, very popular. Their runners also very popular. Martins Dukos, among others, using them. Now then, USA's John Daly. He is the top-placed American. American leads, and American trying to beat him. 27-year-old from Smithtown, New York.
Coach Tuffy Latour urging him on. This is a big heat for John Daly's program. Whether he can withstand all the pressure overnight building up. Young slider, this is his home track. He's in the thick of the competition. Full second behind pretty much for competition on the podium. But if he has a good, clean pressure run, we'll see how it puts the heat on the top 2 sleds.
He was 0.42 of a second ahead of Kyle Tress from the first heat. He got a great start. He's opening up that advantage. Got up to 5100s in front, 4800s. Tress was 121.9 through the chicane. So look for Daly's speed now.
He had a perfect exit of Shady. Yeah, 2 little clicks didn't affect the speed too much, but it's going to cost him some.
Well, he will stay in front of Kyle Tress. The gap down to 0.4 of a second. Oh, a little wild there as well, and that might have cost him a trip to the podium. 54.23. Kyle Tress waves goodbye as John Daly moves into the lead. 3 to go, so almost within touching distance of a medal, but it will require a drama from one of the 3 men in front. Liking the new helmet. Look, that metal flake color changing look. And that big grin that we're so used to seeing.
Well, as you mentioned yesterday, look at the thighs on John Daly. He's been training and this has helped his program quite a bit, because this is where he stands with a very, very strong finish. There he is, way off. He held it on too late, and that drops you off. You lose that pressure at the end of the curve, and he dropped right off. That means lateral speed and not going forward, and that cost him a little bit, maybe a spot on the podium.
He was really trying to hold the speed, wasn't he? Just trying to do as little steering as possible, because that's what you need down at the bottom. So here we go, 3 to go. John Daly, Kyle Tress, 1-2 for the USA, and now we have our fast 3 from the first heat. Thomas Ducours is just 600ths away from a World Cup win overnight. Between him, though, and his brother is Alexander Tretyakov in second. There's your leader, John Daly.
Good to see a smile on John Daly's face. He's had an up-and-down career, had some real problems last year, particularly the first race, running without his bib. But he's got his program together and hopes for a spot on the podium. And this is a guy who's going to maybe keep him off. Thomas Ducours got ice water in his
Wow, 496. Look at his starts. 495, 494 yesterday, and 496 again. What do these guys have for breakfast?
Well, with Thomas Ducours, a tall, lanky guy again, head well over the front of the sled, feet dangling in the back, but he has got an ideal form. He trained so hard with his brother Martins, who's just blown away the field in almost every race. Nice line through shady. We'll see the exit. Absolutely perfect. He got that little bit of a slingshot effect. Thomas Ducours has trained on this track, and look at this. He's opening up even more of a lead for John Daly.
The margin overnight was 1.02. It's out now to 1.2 seconds and counting. 121.8. Very good speed.
Now up to a second and 3/10. Thomas Ducours even challenging the Russian Rocket.
Wow. And that is his
brother.
Fastest heat, 53.79, quicker than he went in either of the runs yesterday. He is trying to lay down a marker. Don't forget, the fast 3 covered by just 6/100ths of a second. It is the tiniest margin.
Yeah, just a little over 2/10 off the track record for downtime. So the track crew here, Orta, Tony Carlino, the track chief, have really done a job on this track right after the women's bobsled first heat.
Guaranteed podium position for Thomas Ducours, just a click away from the fastest time. 121.8 speed, 121.9. Kyle Tress, fastest man at the chicane, but Martins Ducours has the lead. 3 times last year, he and brother Thomas finished on the podium together. 2 1-3s and a family 1-2 in the 11-12 season. And it looks like 2012-13 may start the same way. Alexander Tretyakov on the podium in 6 of 8 races in the World Cup last year. Second in the World Cup standings. The man with the fastest start in the business having trouble hanging on to Martins Ducours. Will he stay in front of Thomas? That is the question.
And will he stay in front of John Daly? He's the only one inconsistent, although he's a superstar. Alexander Tretyakov, 482 push, but Alexander Tretyakov has been known to be inconsistent, and he's the only one that really could drop back, I think, off the podium to give John Daly a chance. Little wide, sideways sliding now. That's going to cost him that brilliant start that he's had. He's only 1,500ths up.
That's an astonishing loss of time over John Daly, because he was 1.03 seconds clear of Daly, but he's still outstarted Thomas Ducours. Don't forget, the gap between them overnight was 500ths. It is now 0, and that was a mistake as well.
Sure was. Exit of 12 cost him slow speed, 127 kilometers per hour. He's bringing the field back to him.
Well, Thomas Ducours did put in a great third run, and Tretyakov has no answer for it. Shoulders the wall. He won't be in trouble for a medal. 53.93. Can Thomas win here? It's definitely possible. Martins Ducours has never won a World Cup race on this track. Now, I haven't looked to see if Thomas has. I'm assuming no. If
no,
Martins
he has
hasn't.
not. No, and Thomas has always been kept out of the gold medal position by his brother Martins. Now here you see the best start on tour. Not much ahead of Martin Stukors though, but he's got a good track start. Landing on the sled on your knees also is not and feet widespread, which helps some athletes, but not some like Alexander Tretiakov, because he uses his feet too much as a rudder, and that swings this back of the sled sidewards, and you lose your forward momentum.
Well, there is the weighing scales that are used to calibrate the athlete and the sled together. And Tretiakov is in there being weighed and measured as Martin Stukors, our overnight leader, the man who won everything last year. Last time he was on this track, World Championships in February, as we saw at the beginning of the show, won gold in the snow by a country mile. He's won 11 of the last 12 World Cup races. The only man to beat him in those races is disqualified after the first heat, Frank Rommel. But can Thomas Stukors pull off the family shock? Can the older brother finally put the younger brother back in his cage? We'll find out in a minute.
Maybe he can earn a head-at-the-table position once again with younger brother Martin Stukors. Martin does a 4.86 start. A good start for him, but again, he's always among the leaders.
Well, now that's a 10th quicker than his brother started, so the gap then as he lay down up to 1600ths of a second. But he didn't have convincing runs yesterday. There was a lot of work going on. He didn't look like in the same form. Maybe they've radically changed the sled and he's still getting used to it. 2/10 up is the margin.
Here he is in shady. We'll see the exit. Absolutely perfect. Good slingshot effect. Hit the exit at the perfect time. Got some momentum. 2500s up. Oh!
Well, he had great speed. Look at that, 122.8 despite the hit on the wall, quicker than anybody else. Here we go. He is back to form. He was just toying with us yesterday, making it look like a race. 800ths of a second, though, in the end. 53.77 slide. That hit on the wall really cost him. He went from a quarter second up to just a breath in front of his brother, but he takes his first ever World Cup victory here in Lake Placid. Bogey track. No, not since he won the Worlds in February, but look at him, hardly jubilant. That was not easy. That was hard work for Martin Stukors.
Well, I'm sure Thomas Stukors' heartbeat skipped when he saw his younger brother whack the wall during the chicane. Thought maybe he might lose enough, but Martins lives to sit at the head of the table one more race.
Yes, he does, but again, he worked hard for that. Martins and Thomas Stukors, it's a brother Latvia 1-2. Alexander Tretiakov takes third place. John Daly in fourth position for the USA. Yeah. Well, the start was good. 486, good enough to put him right in the frame. But as yesterday, drive didn't look as polished as we come to expect.
No, he looks human. And although he's been Superman, he is human. And any track can take it. It's amazing how the track conditions there. And there you see an uncharacteristic error by Martin Stukors. But it is not uncharacteristic for him to be on the top of the podium.
You know what? I'm willing to bet that these guys are working with the equipment and changing things around. He didn't look as settled as we've got used to seeing him. But nevertheless, you know, form is temporary. This man's brilliance shines through in any weather conditions, sun or snow. Martin Stukors wins World Cup #1 of the season, a 3-heat top 10 runoff, ahead of his brother Thomas by 800ths. Alexander Tretiakov completes the podium. We'll hear from them right after this.
A 15-minute warning to our first competitive sled for the women's race. 15 minutes. The order once again: Ekaterina, Astrid, Anastasia, Jennifer, Fabian, Olga, Ismay, Jamie, Kathleen, Anya, Jasmine, Paula, Sandra, Alana, Christina, and Kaylee. So it's a total of 16 sleds. Moving on to run number 2. The top sliders slide last. This is reverse order of ranking from run number 1. So the top sliders slide last. It's going to be tight. There's about 0.05 of a second between second and third place. 0.12 of a second between first and second. 0.17 in the top 3 sleds. Less than 0.2. Actually 0.23 in the top 5 sleds. So this is still anybody's race. Stick around, cheer on our women, show your support for the women's bobsled team. This is the FIBT Bobsled and Skeleton World Cup event.
Welcome back to Lake Placid in upstate New York in the beautiful Adirondack Mountains on an absolute peach of a day. We've just seen the conclusion of the first men's skeleton World Cup race of the 2012-13 season, and that is reflected in our World Cup rankings. Last year's World Cup champion Martin Stucors assumes the mantle, the yellow vest of the race leader for this year's crown. Thomas Stucors, his brother, second here today, lies in second spot ahead of Alexander Tretiakov. David Kurtz, it was not a great run from Martin Stucors. He kind of dug in, but he did enough.
Well, it actually shows that when he's not on his A game, he still can be on top of the podium. He's got that much of a complete program. Start, finish, good driving, good equipment, good coaching from his father, Dennis Stucors, who runs the track in Sigula, where the family home is located. And Martin Stucors is really handling himself.
Well, let's hear what he thought of that. He is down. Let's get to our top 3 interviews. John Morgan, what do they know?
And we're down here for the flower ceremony for our first World Cup of the year. The Dukar brothers get first and second. Alexander Tretiakov, you're in third place, but competition, huh?
Очень рад этим соревнованиям. Хорошо получилось проехать 3 попытки, более-менее ровно. В принципе, доволен результатом. 3-е место на данный момент хорошо для меня.
Yeah, he says the Dukars brothers are very tough to compete against, I'm sure. And Thomas, good starts, all 3 runs, good runs. When are you going to catch your brother here?
We'll see. I'm trying to do my best, but you see, it's still too short, so I'm working on it. So.
And Martins, the 3 runs, you weren't happy with your 2 runs yesterday. What about today?
I'm happy with the place, but I'm not really happy with my runs. But I will try to fix maybe next time. And I would like to say thanks for all supporters and for all coaches who helped me. And this evening, thank you very much for the good race.
Well, what a great way for the Latvians to start off the World Cup Tour. Martin, I don't know what the race is, but he's like 15 out of 17 or something in the last 2 years.
Well, that is his 12th of 13 World Cup starts, and in between he has won in World Championship competitions as well. Frank Rommel's consecutive streak of 13 top 5 finishes came to an end with his disqualification and took out perhaps one of the closest challenges for Martin Stucors. Well, that is it for the men's skeleton. Lots more action coming up live on the Mount van Hovenberg track. The women's bobsleigh Heat 2 just about to follow. Stay with us for all the action here from Lake Placid.